Hey, good day, everyone. It's Loren Hawkins here from ThreePoint Capital. It's been a while since we've been on here. Welcome to a new episode of ThreePoint Perspective. I have the pleasure of welcoming Brian Bell, VP of Corporate Development for Stewart Title, to the show today. Brian, welcome. It's nice to finally sit down and connect with you.
Thanks for the invite, Loren, and really happy to be here today.
Yeah, so I mean, we met about a month ago through a mutual colleague, Jessica, who works with you in a different capacity now. I've known Jessica, geez, for 20 plus years, and she was kind enough to put the intro out to us, as you guys have some pretty exciting things ahead at Stewart that we're going to talk about today. Changing market perspective, where you're looking to enter or exit, etc. So tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll kind of get into it.
Sure thing. Yeah, things are really exciting at Stewart Title. We've recently announced that we're moving into the lender space, helping brokers. And in any market where you increase competition, it's always a good thing. So when we look at the legal closing space, there's two providers today, and I would say three is better than two in any given market. So 8 months ago, I was brought on by Stewart to lead our lender program initiative, take us into this lender space. My background is in default insurance. I started my career at CMHC. I was Canada Guarantee's first employee, and worked in a number of startup environments that bring new businesses to light. And I'm really excited to be working with the Stewart team to bring us to the lender space and the broker space.
Well, that's awesome. I know I've had a storied past with Stewart. I've done a lot with Jessica over the years. At ThreePoint, we're a big advocate of Stewart. We allow our lawyer partners to choose the title insured partner that they want, but we seem to see a lot of, especially in the Okanagan, a lot of local lawyers using Stewart. For us, there's a couple key components on the policy that protect us and the borrower. So we work really closely with you guys. So we're excited to see some of the enhancements of what that partnership's going to look like. But why now for Stewart to enter the broker and enhance sort of their lender relations already?
Yeah, first, thank you for your partnership, Loren, and the brokers and lenders that do use us. We're in a very fortunate position at Stewart. We've been a lawyer-centric firm for more than 30 years in the Canadian marketplace. And I think the honest-to-God answer around our timing to enter was it just hadn't really lined up for the company around how could we actually still be lawyer-centric while not taking business away from our lawyer partners. And that's where I came into play. They hired me. They brought me in specifically with a single mandate, which was to figure out how do we get into the lender and help with the mortgage broker space while still staying true to our form. And my first 90 days with the company, I didn't really know what the shape and form of our lender and broker program was going to be. So actually, I met almost every broker, lender. I met everybody within the industry first to figure out what were the pain points, where were the challenges that people were seeing, and then assess where we're going to build a centralized closing company or where we're actually going to go lawyer centric. And the market was the driver for us. It worked out perfectly that we can build a lawyer centric model while at the same time staying true to our corporate values and history.
Yeah. Do you think the market can really handle a third provider in the closing space?
It's such a great question, Loren. Like being Canada Guarantee's first employee, and this is on the mortgage default insurance side, you go back 20 years ago, nobody's wanted a third provider. You fast forward today, Canada Guarantee's most likely the number one mortgage default insurance company, and they really proved that three is better than two. So, being on the innovation side of the lens, I always like the third provider coming in because they really bring boatloads of new innovation. They have to look at the problem different. I always say you turn the pyramid upside down because you have to think differently, right? You have to earn the business. Like there's no, we're not entitled to anything. We have to go out and earn it. And I really like that coming in as a new entrant. It's forcing us to look at it differently. And I can tell you, taking the 90 days to talk to everybody and address the pain points, there's more than enough room for a third in this marketplace.
Well, and I mean, you know, you hit the nail on the head as far as sort of innovation. I mean, you look back at when, you know, Canada Guarantee entered the market back in the day. I mean, they really sort of brought a new spin to the insurance space. And I think that's what really kind of made the other two providers kind of take note and say, okay, listen, now we better pull up our socks and make some changes. So what innovations are Stewart bringing to both sides, the lender and the broker side?
Yeah, service is going to always be your key component around it. But I think when you look at the market today, you have two centralized service providers, FNF and FCT. They've done a good job. So if you've looked in history, like they've been able to standardize process and help banks around that. I think where the market has really changed is complexity today. Like not,
Right.
I think we've moved more and more files into this path, which I call a centralized
Yeah.
or a cookie cutter, when I think the market has evolved, that the complexity is changing this landscape, which is causing files to take longer. They're causing more client frustration and around it. So we spent a lot of time looking at the marketplace and saying, you know, I think there's roughly 45 to 50% of the market that would be better served if you actually use the lawyer versus a centralized closing. And the reason we have that premise is because we did identify the pain points, but more importantly, there's a lot more dimensions to picking the right legal closing partner than cost. And I would say over the past decade, and I face this day in and day out with every Canadian bank, everybody says, well, how cheap is it going to be? And I tend to turn it upside down. I say, how good do you want the client experience to be? You know, and
Right.
how complex is the transaction? So a lot of what we're doing is bringing a different lens to this, saying, yeah, like let's really understand, what does the client need? You know, how complex is the transaction, and what is the best recommendation that a lender, a mortgage broker, or a mobile salesperson can give to the client up first so they have the right decisions. So we're pushing
Yeah.
it away from an industry just based solely on a low base price and saying, what is it that you really want to accomplish?
You're basically taking our side of the, you know, a lender perspective, saying, listen, you know, rate is not everything. It's what are you getting for that? Like, what, you know, are you comparing apples to apples or oranges to oranges, right? You know, I always get the conversation, you know, the question a lot from brokers, like, okay, well, what puts you differently than your competitor? You know, they're offering this and you're offering that. Like, what are the differences you bring to the table? And it's the overall client experience for the end user, right? It's not only the broker's experience, which is obviously key, but it's the client, because the client is trusting the broker, and in turn the broker and trusting the lender partner, and it'll be the same for you guys. You know, price isn't always the best option, right? It's what are you getting and that overall experience.
I don't like to pay any more than the next person, and nor do
Oh,
you
of
ever want a
course.
consumer to pay more, right? Like, and
Exactly.
we spend a lot of time, and I'm, believe me, I'm in banks every single day, and I get, you know, I use your comparison. We're comparing apples to oranges. We want to be oranges into this. We want
Yeah.
to provide a differentiated level of service. Our goal is to create a lot more transparency into the process. Like the standardization, like it works in banks, and I get it, and it works on cookie cutter deals, and I think there's a role for it in the marketplace, but there's also a role for, I want a differentiated level of service, or my client demands that differentiated level of service. And I
Right.
think that's where the sweet spot for Stewart is coming in with the legal partners. You know, what we're doing is that we're bringing lawyers back to the table again to start closing transactions that have been completely gone for them, right, into the central. So I think we're going to end up balancing the market. You know, even if you say you reshift 40% of the volume to lawyers, it makes both the centralized companies faster, better. Like the industry wins with innovation, and that's a big part of our pitch has been, we want to innovate to help brokers, we want to
Yeah.
innovate to help lenders. We are actually going to innovate for lawyers as well. We're spending like Stewart Title is really evolving to a tech company because we're having, you know, to integrate better. We're having to, you know, how do we create better workflow for lawyers and banks and partners, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've made a big leap in the past 8 months to really showcasing that we will be a tech company.
Nice. So are you going to offer some centralized options outside of obviously the in-person role of a law firm?
Yeah, It's a great question, and the way we look at the marketplace is kind of three perspectives, Lauren. I would say the first is what we call the mortgage broker market. We have
Okay.
purposely not gone in, so we won't be a drop down in a menu to say, use a Stewart Title network into this case. So
Right.
we're supporting and letting every lawyer across Canada work directly with mortgage brokers and showcase their value add. So we've created lots of tools and we've lowered our premium rates on refinance transactions. So think of us as really arming every lawyer in Canada to actually fight back for the business once again, which I call our grassroots initiative, and it's been well received. I've done a lot of great work, and our sales team is out really supporting the lawyers. I would say the second area we focus on, and my team is starting to spend a lot more, are mobile sales channels
Okay.
for the big banks. So the big banks, their mobile sales teams tend to use a lot of the centralized. We're trying to level the playing field. So how do we actually make it that they're providing a choice for a lawyer or a centralized service provider, right? So there's a lot of work being done onto that front to open up that channel for the lawyers. And then I think the third is what your question was on was, what are we going to do in the bank lender space? And we will stand up a program around it. So that is further down the road for us. But we will need to have standardized SLAs. We will need to have network of lawyers that are able to meet these SLAs.
Yeah.
So, maybe not every lawyer in Canada will be able to do every single deal from the lender because of timelines, prices.
Correct.
These
Yeah.
are things that we're figuring out, right? So,
Yeah.
but the reality is that Stewart is opening up the market for the legal professionals once again.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, having that another option's not going to hurt anybody, that's for sure. So what's Stewart going to do to help enhance the broker experience, the mortgage broker experience within the industry?
Yeah, mortgage brokers, first of all, have a very complicated job. I wouldn't be a great broker. I'm good on the innovation side of the lens, right, or the balance sheet.
Yeah.
And I think where we're really looking at this challenge for mortgage professionals is as I look at them as trusted advisors, and any tools that we can create as a company to help facilitate or enable them to be more of a trusted advisor into the process. And you touched around rate before, really helps with that.
Yeah.
And I think client experience is the one thing. Refinance and client experience, I always view it as it's on a scale. And I think what's happened is that the customer experience has gone way down, and price has been the only driver around it. We're re-looking at this problem to say, and we're actually creating a checklist for mortgage brokers and mortgage professionals and lenders to say, client complexity comes into this, or deal complexity. The sooner that you can identify complexity earlier, it should help with, should I use a lawyer or should I use a central closer? So we're really trying to help create the best client experience is identifying the problems earlier so that you can provide the right legal closing partner. And that's taken us about 5 months to get this figured out. I've worked really extensively with a number of law clerk consultants and industry professionals to get a handle on this. And we basically identified 5 areas, Loren, where a mortgage broker and a lender should take note of when looking at a deal. So when a deal comes in, like the first dimension that we look at is something called entity complexity. So are you dealing with corporate borrowers? Are you dealing with estates? Like, is there something really complex around the entity? If there is, we're saying that's probably really well suited to use a legal professional because it's not simple and straightforward around it. Encumbrance complexity is also the second dimension we looked at. So when you look at the broker market, it's segmented today by, I have private lenders, I have mix, I have reverse mortgages, I'll have mortgage monolines, the big banks and credit unions. The reality is that also plays a key role in whether I should be using a legal professional or not. Like if it's a private lender or it's a reverse mortgage, and for me, I always have a bee in my bonnet around reverse mortgages. I can't think of a better choice to use a legal professional in a reverse mortgage than any central model. You're dealing with clients that are elderly. These are very complicated transactions. And I think just having that legal professionals at the table adds a lot of value, as it does in private lending as well. So so that's that encumbrance complexity that we talk about as that second dimension. To me, the which we look at as execution complexity. Is there a power of attorney? Are they non-residents? Do they need independent legal advice? So, in one hand, we talk a lot about price, and I think the second part that never gets talked about is, does the client have any representation? So what often gets forgotten with the low price is that the interests are represented of the bank if you'll use a central closing service, whereas if you use a lawyer, they're representing the interests of the borrower in that case.
Correct.
And that's often overlooked, and it's the one thing we're bringing a lot to light around it. So like execution complexity is there, and that's the same of, do I need representation? Do I not need representation? So I think these are really important things to start asking up front. The fourth one is timeline, and there's a cost in refinance transactions. So what I mean by that is that if you have a client that's paying out high interest debt and they're doing they're doing consolidation, then there's going to be a per diem cost between. So
Correct.
really, I would say in anything where you're paying down really high interest debt, you have to watch the timeline to complete. If it takes 15 days and there's $100 of per diem cost, and a lawyer can close it in 5 days, a 10-day delta is already $1,000. So all we're bringing to the light is saying, make sure we do the full comparison. Don't be fooled by a low sticker price. Understand all of the transaction. And then the last one for us is client. Like we left client for last, but I probably should put it first in our list. Let's figure out, what does the client need up front? So are they a high net worth client? Do they have special needs? Do they need to be in person with a lawyer, or can they handle a virtual or remote closing? So there's a lot of dimensions, but these are 5 that I think mortgage brokers and lenders, if they ask the client up front, I think they would save a lot of pain point in the back end by really picking the right partner first, and then not having a mess on the back end.
Just way you described it, it's really the way mortgage brokers take an application, right? They're going through what the client's needing, what the pain points may be, what's the transaction about, and they go away or go in the same sort of method as choosing a lawyer. As they're having that conversation, they're going in their mind, they're going through their lender partners and going, okay, this doesn't fit this person. Okay, this might fit this, and they're coming up with these possible scenarios right away, where having that same mindset when they're talking about the actual and the goal, the legal aspect, that should be part and parcel of that as well, as they're going through, like you mentioned, like, is it a corporate, is it a rental, is it a this or that, like, how complex is that transaction going to be? You're going to be picking that particular lender, and more importantly, okay, how does that affect that end result, and do we have the right closing partner available for this transaction? That remote centralized might not fit this situation, and it's just another avenue that a broker should consider when looking at a deal from start to finish.
I think what often gets forgotten, Lawrence, is at the end of the day is that we're measured on the last touch point with the client is the funding, right?
Right.
And if that's a mess, you could have done a phenomenally great job as a broker or lender, but until that last piece happens and it turns out to be a mess, that's what's remembered into the transaction. So what we're doing is we've come to market and shining the light on this, saying this is important. Like, get the legal closing right, and I think your stars go up in Google, or that client has the better experience. So is that worth $200? Is that worth $400? It depends, right? What I have seen is a number of the top mortgage brokers, what they're doing is they're actually asking their clients if they have an updated power of attorney or an updated will. And what they're doing is they really, really focused on being a trusted advisor. But more importantly, they want to protect their clients. So they work with lawyers to do the refinance closing, and then they also add this additional protection and get the client updated so that down the road, if something were to happen as their trusted advisor, they know they're protected. And what a great time to do it. Like, no one was going to update their POA or their will, myself included, until I actually was in my own refinance transaction.
sure opens your mind uh, when you have to go through the same experience, right? Once you've personally gone through, it doesn't really matter what it is, but you can uh, use that information at work to help make decisions going forward. It's an eye opener, right? And when you're going through that, maybe you had some pain points. Like, okay, great. How can I apply that to what we're looking at doing or what we're already doing to enhance that experience, so that pain point doesn't happen for somebody else, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we got to remember we're dealing in transactions are complicated. Mortgage documents are not simple on the best of days, right?
And they're getting more and more complex across the country, with as regulators make some changes to protect the consumer, right?
Yeah, and lawyers are there to help, like, make sure that people understand and provide the advisement and the counsel around it. They're not there
Yeah.
breaking the deals. Like, and I think there's been a misperception around that. Like, I've worked with a number of the top, legal professionals. They're super astute around it. Like, they're creating that balance that's needed in that marketplace, as opposed to the client having that regret after the fact, going, it took too long. I didn't understand what I was signing, and now I know
Yeah.
I'm not represented. Like, it's an awful feeling, and I think that's where you're right around the regulatory side. I think there's probably in time going to be more and more oversight around this issue, which aligns to your earlier question around timing. That's another
Yeah.
reason that we've seen this in the Quebec market. With the regulator taken, will other provinces follow suit? Yeah, potentially.
Exactly. And through your programs, you are only partnering with solicitors, or are you also bringing in notaries? Because there is a difference to the services they can provide. The notary has certain standards that they have to adhere to, whereas the solicitor side is a more enhanced delivery model, and some people just might not understand the difference.
Yeah, we partner with both. It depends
Okay.
on each province and what they're regulated to do. But if it's a notary in Quebec or in BC, like we partner with them. If it's a
Okay.
lawyer in Ontario or other markets, like Stewart Title, at the end of the day, when we try to use cautious words, we call them legal professionals,
Yeah.
regardless of how they're noted in each province. But more importantly, we want to be legal centric. We want
Yeah.
to add tools and help them. And I think the lens for us has changed. And how do we help brokers now? How do we
Yeah.
help actual, private lenders and mix and start to, like, introduce ourselves? And Stuart's really lucky. We own our own ID verification company. It's called ThreePoint, and
Yeah. A
I've
great,
I've
a
worked.
great, uh, a great product.
Yeah, it's one of the one, like, our founders, and we're a majority owner of the company. But what it's done is keeping the founders in has been one. I love working with entrepreneurs, being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, but it's really helped us to embed that we've created that gold standard in the legal profession around ID verification. We've used it in Stewart Title, and we've guarded against so much fraud. It's unbelievable. So for me, the real big excitement is we're starting to join forces a lot more of combining the two products together, and how we're going to combat in the broker, the lender, the private lenders as well, even the big institutional banks. So there's compliance is not going away. It's actually every department's getting bigger each year, not smaller.
Right. So really, you're enhancing the lender experience. Really is not going to affect negatively the industry at all. I mean, it's really bringing more innovation, more options to the table for brokers and Canadians to choose from.
If I make our two competitors sharper, which an increased competitive environment does, we should get thank you cards for that. That's a
Yeah.
good way for if you're a broker, just seeing that competitive dynamic. And that's why we are looking for support in the industry to support new entrants like us. The
Yeah.
coolest part about being at Stewart is, number one, we're not bringing people to Mars. Like, lawyers
Right.
have been closing deals for a long time.
Yeah.
Secondly, Stewart has been in the industry for a long time. Like, our reputation is very good. We are very conscious about building strong partnerships, being very credible in the marketplace. And you see that with our team, which you noted very early on. We have a lot of
Yeah.
phenomenal people who have been with the company for a long time. I would be
Oh
the
yeah.
newest executive, like, in a long, long time that have joined. my skill set's very different than what sits onto our team. I'm an
Yeah.
entrepreneur working in an entrepreneurial role, launching some new innovations to take the company to the next level and really bring that new dynamic, which is needed in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. So around that, what obviously if brokers quite excited for Stewart to come into their side of the industry, and they've got a great partnership with a law firm or a couple of law firms. How do they ensure that their lawyer, their solicitor, notary for that fact, have access to you? Is there a process that, hey, listen, I've got a great partnership with you. However, we've got Stewart here. I quite like what they're doing for the broker side of things and how they're looking out for the end client. And I, kind of want to direct business if I can to them. Like, do they just have a conversation with their lawyer and say, hey, do you use Stewart, or do you have access? Are you signed up? Is that sort of how they go about ensuring that they have access to you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question, Loren. So that is the first. A number of mortgage brokers today tell their lawyers that they would prefer to have a Stewart Title policy on the
Okay.
deals that they originate directly with them. We're looking at building some app technology to really be able to identify lawyers for mortgage brokers if they're closing in different areas. So that's
Nice. Okay.
we're just
Right.
working through that now. So like the premise around it is that you're sitting, I believe you're in Kelowna, right, Lauren? And
Correct.
you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm closing in Nanaimo with a client. Well, and my client would like to meet somebody in person that's a legal professional. You'd be able to open it up and you'd see who are some trusted professionals in the Nanaimo market or Kelowna, or so it's that way that we're shining the light on really good legal professionals that mortgage brokers, mortgage salespeople have that opportunity to one-on-one connect. Where we will build out is, we will stand portals up and continue to
Correct.
embed
Yeah.
ourselves early in the process, but we're at month 8 into the journey.
Yeah.
It's quite exciting. We've moved a long way, and I think we've had to be really careful that we never wanted to take business away from the legal professionals in the broker market and then give it back to them. Like that was a
Yeah.
very conscious decision we made early in our journey, was that we're here to support them. We're not here to take a deal and then give it back to them. It just
Yeah.
or a separate lawyer. Like it just creates challenges where we knew we could be an industry leader. We can support the legal professionals, and then my role is supporting the lenders and the brokers, and how do we look at these new channels that we have never worked with before and add
Yeah.
value into the refinance value chain.
Yeah. Right. Um, you kind of touched on it on sort of service times, expectations, etc. What are your typical closing times look like for different transactions?
Yeah, like lawyers today, a lot of lawyers are closing under 5 days today. Is what we're seeing. We're hearing it's double of that, and and I can't say for certain. I haven't sent the deal. For us, what's really important is, and it seems like turn time is one of the number one issues, but it's that communication seems to be the second one.
Yeah.
Nobody likes sending a deal into a black hole and not knowing, what's happening, where it's happening. And the more mortgage brokers we've met, the more and more are saying, I like to control my deal. I like to ensure the handoff with my client is seamless and smooth. And I think that's been a big part of what we've been working and educating
Yeah.
around the marketplace, is that yes, we are borrowing your client for a short period of time to create a good experience on the closing side, and the final handoff should be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. It truly is that that end result is what's most important for that whole holistic approach for the client experience on that. Um, Obviously, there's a couple big key things that are going on in our space right now. Sort of one being the condo market crisis, if you want to call it that. But more importantly, things that have kind of come to the forefront right now is First Nation land claims. What's Stewart's view on what's going on within especially the province of BC and those land claim?
Yeah, our team is we have solutions to help with that. Our title
Yeah.
policies will cover cover into this issue. There's going to be potentially more that come around it. So I think all of the title insurers now are on a level playing field as it relates to this issue. Do they go away? Hopefully in time this gets resolved, but I think we're in that interim period where it does create a little bit of uncertainty around it. The good news is the title policy does. We have coverage for these situations. So
now, is it a new rider on your existing policy, or is it already embedded in your policy?
that's a super good question, Loren. I'm our lender guy. I'm not I'm not our title expert true and true. I do know we have looked at the issue. We have solutions around whether rider or embedded in them. I can get back to you for sure.
Yeah, I know. Hey, while we were on the topic, I thought I'd ask. Hey, this has been a great conversation, great some time. Is there anything else that you want to sort of add and let our audience know about Stewart?
Yeah, it's you'll see a lot more of us in the news in the coming months. We're really pushing for a lot more consumer advocacy around it, and for the clients to understand like the documents that they're signing and how legal professionals help. So I think that's important to see that their clients may start to see some information around it. And as a broker, I think being the trusted advisor always helpful if you bring it up front. Where we're pushing super hard is around helping professionals figure out as early as they can in the process, how do I choose the right legal provider? And that is day in and day out is that's what I focus on, especially with the big banks. And because it's really important. If you get it wrong, the client experience is awful. You get it right, you have an opportunity to really win. And it's it's not a price anymore if you have complexity, right? And then and I'm not saying we're doing this to charge more. I'm just the reality is that put the client first, and the more I focus on this problem, the more it's become clear to us that this is the future. And the client side is not going away. If you looked at Google reviews today, take a look at lawyers' Google reviews and take a look at Google reviews of a central service provider. Clients are doing that today. So I encourage, like we all make decisions today, simple decisions. You're buying something, you go and look at the reviews. We all look at reviews. And I encourage mortgage professionals to also look at reviews and trusting your client in the legal closing process to make sure you're comfortable with that, because they will Google it. They will check it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, again, I can't thank you enough for taking some time educating myself and the broker industry in Canada. I know for a fact that we, again, have a fantastic relationship with Stewart. Service levels that we receive from you guys are second to none. And I always use the added verbiage to my broker partners going like, you do have a lot of choices out there. That's the great thing about being in this space in Canada. However, the best way to experience the service is give us a try, and I say to everybody that's listening and tuning in for this, give Stewart a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And most importantly, your clients will have that great experience from start to end with you. So again, thank you for your time. I look forward to grabbing a beer next time we're in the same city together. And we'll have some contact information available to everybody on the post afterwards. So again, thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you soon.
Thanks so much, Loren.
You're welcome. Talk to you back.